Guys, thanks everybody for making some time to attend our webinar here today, talking about Holganix, talking with some of our current customers and dealers about what they're seeing out in their parts of the world using Holganix. We've got some guys here that have used Holganix for lots of years. A couple of guys have used them for 4 or 5 years. Brian Moorfeld's newer in the last year or so, but got lots of experience. So I think it's going to be a really good, informative webinar for us all to learn about what people are seeing in Holganix out in the field, how they're using it. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day and learning more about our products. So Rita, you want to go to the next slide then? So we're going to take the next half hour, 45 minutes, and just review with some of these guys. You got Brian Moorfeld. Brian, you want to just do a quick intro on who you are, what you do, where you're from?
Okay. I'm from West Point, Iowa. I don't know what I do, Barrett. Oh my gosh, I got so much. But started in the business going up on a year ago now. Had really good luck with getting this business up and going. We've got the first off-site out of Philly. We're up and running, making product here in West Point. Going very well there. Otherwise, I'm a farmer, about 1,500 acres here in Southeast Iowa.
Great. And you've had Holganix on about how many acres that you've had experience on, Brian, that you've been on the field?
So last year we were about 20,000 acres on our first year. 1,460 acres of my own ground. I left a few strips there. So this year we're on, I think as of right now, we have about 100,000 acres sold, on track to do about 500,000.
Right. Well, that's cool, man. Appreciate your support on that. So, Tim, you've used the product now for a couple of years. Do a quick intro on what part of the world you're in and what you're doing with Holganix.
Yeah, I am in southwest Nebraska, which is other than California, I think drought central of America. Harvested for a neighbor. His corn did a whopping 1.5 bushels an acre on corn. So that was horrible, pitiful. That's kind of what we've dealt with. But what I really like with this stuff here is it's, I also have some organic ground, but what it really has done for me, that's actually how I got started with Holganix, was if you want to talk about snake oils and all the things that people say doesn't work, try the organic realm. Everything they sell to you, you try about 5 gallons to see what is a snake oil and what isn't. And this stuff here, the Holganix, has been the one thing that right off the bat, I mean, when the corn came out of the ground, you could tell it made a difference compared to everything else. I was like, okay, I want to do this a little bit more. So I 2 years ago was when I tried it on my conventional ground as well. Got the best yields I'd ever had on my personal fields. So told a couple neighbors about it, and they had some success with it. So went again this year, and even with the drought, I had better yields on almost all my fields. I think one field got second place for my historical best yields ever using Holganix basically in furrow. So really excited to try it for a 3rd year and see if we can push them a little further.
Great. Well, thanks, Tim. Thanks for sharing your experience. And Taylor, you've got, out of everybody on the call here, you've got the most experience using the product now for whatever it's been, 4 or 5 years. Appreciate your support and using it on your own farm, your family farm, as well as getting it on a bunch of farms in your community. Tell us a little about your experience, Taylor, who you are, where you're from, and how you're using Holganix, why you're using it, that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm Taylor Petzinger from Marvilla, North Dakota, and I've been using it, I think now 5 years, I think, and it started out that we did on a quarter. I sprayed it on over the top, reseeded some late soybeans, and I did every other pass, 120 feet through the whole quarter. And that year it was super wet, then it got dry, and just the roots of the hard pan was basically, the roots went sideways where I didn't spray it, and then they went straight down. I had a tap root on my soybean plant, I don't know, 17, 18 inches, I'm pretty amazed. And anyways, I farm mainly edible beans, my main thing, corn, soybeans, and barley. About a 7,000 acre farm.
Great. Great. And you've seen Holganix used on a bunch of small grains and edible beans and such as well, right?
Yeah, well, I put on my barley. Been putting on my barley, and I've been seeing big, like on the tough ground. I put on probably my headlands where I got compaction and a little bit of alkali, and then I've been pulling off 80, 90 bushel barley yields.
That's cool. That's
First
really
year
good.
I got money on that dirt, on the headlands.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you sharing some experience here today. And by the way, for those of you who are attendees, we're going to have, why don't you go to the next slide, Ritu? We're going to have a question and answer section. So, as you this is kind of our agenda. We're going to just go through a high level overview of what Holganix products are, what we're talking about here. And then we're going to talk to the growers that are on the call here about how they've been using Holganix. You've heard a little bit of it so far. And then we're going to open it up to you all for question and answer. So there's, looks like there's almost 20 of you that if you could type in your questions into the chat bar. Is that what they do, Ritu? Type right into their chat bar on the webinar. We'll go through and answer the questions for the guys on the call here and what their personal experiences are using. All of them use it on their own ground as well as help us get it out to their communities. Lots of experience on the call here. So be thinking about those questions as you kind of go through this overview of kind of what Holganix is. So Ritu, why don't you take us to the next slide? So I like to kind of start webinars off with a kind of a question that kind of frames up some of the things we're talking about. And this question to me is, I think, a compelling question for anybody who owns their own ground. Certainly multi-generational farmers. When's the right time to start to invest in building your soil, the soil that you want to leave your grandkids? I think everybody would say it's an obvious answer to that question. The right time to start investing in your soil is today. But we also got to get through the next year and make sure we have a good profit on the farm, in this season, in addition to planning for the future. And so sometimes, in order to push things for this season, we maybe don't do the things that we want to do to invest long term, because sometimes they are contradictory to each other. Making money today might not mean the best thing for making money 20 years from now or 10 years from now. So we have to do what we got to do to get through the day, and then we'll invest. Well, the great thing about using Holganix microbial technologies are they're really effective the first year you use them at helping reduce inputs, helping improve yield. And the more you use them, the better the soil gets. So we help improve profit per acre year one, but we're also helping you start that journey on investing into soil health today, immediately, in a way that doesn't hurt your profit on your operations this year. In fact, it will help profit this year and help invest in soil long term. So it's really a great product to get started with this journey in soil health, which I'm sure everybody on this call has taken some steps on their own journey to soil health, but this will be one more thing you can do that isn't a long-term payoff. I mean, yeah, you get a long-term payoff, but you also get that short-term payoff. And so we're really excited to get this on as many producers' grounds as we can, because we want to help you improve your profit per acre and your long-term soil health. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with some of these growers on the call. Let's go to the next slide, Ritu. So we keep talking about Holganix, what is this product? So it all revolves around our flagship technology called Bio 800 Plus. So Holganix is the company. We have a portfolio of products, most of which fit under this Bio 800 Plus category. So when we say Bio 800 Plus, what we mean is Holganix is a microbial technology where we use a consortium of over 800 species of bacteria, fungi, amoeba, and protozoa that are all working together in a system approach to drive healthy soil and healthy plants. It's basically a supercharged healthy soil microbiome in a liquid formulation. You go out and spray it on your soil at planting, as close to planting as practical, or post-harvest, depending on which formulation you get, and it will help improve your soil long term. It will help improve germination immediately, help improve nutrient efficiency immediately, and typically we see significant yield improvements as well. So we've got two kind of products that are going to be relevant to the crowd on the call today within this Bio 800 Plus family of products. We've got the spring product, which we simply call Bio 800 Plus Agriculture, and that product is used at planting, as close to planting as practical. And so the 800 species of bacteria, fungi, amoeba, protozoa, they're specifically designed to help improve germination, rooting, and nutrient uptake. So we're going to see typical customers will be able to pull back on NP and K. We're going to see faster germination, better rooting, and all of that's going to turn into a better crop at the end of the year, and all while we're continuing to invest into soil health. Then we have a fall product, which is called our Bio 800 Plus Breakdown. Same species, the 800 species of bacteria, fungi, amoeba, protozoa, but here we've actually manipulated the populations to be heavier on the degraders, the beneficial fungi that help break down plant cellulose, corn stover, and that type of thing, help release the nutrients that are tied up in that corn stover and that plant material. Break it down so that we're going to get a better planting in the spring, less stress on our tillage, maybe not have to till, and continue to invest in that soil health. So nutrient efficiency again, because we're going to be pushing all those nutrients that are tied up in that stover back into the ground, but also planting efficiency for the spring because we're going to have less residue all over the ground. So they're the two products. We can use them individually. You can just use spring. You can just use fall. You can use them together as a suite of products to continue to drive soil health. The more you use them, the better they're going to get. So we like to see you use them together, but plenty of people use them as independent applications as well. And by the way, you can see these pictures here. You can see the control, which is their standard fertilizer practice, and then the Bio 800, which is simply adding our spring microbial consortium, and you can see the difference in rooting and germination. Is that one of your guys' pictures? Do you guys know?
That's my picture.
That's your picture? Yeah, you want to say something about, do you remember anything about this?
A little bit. We got a new planter this year, and then I got a new operator in the planter, which is my 19-year-old son. So I started getting calls that we had 48 row missed, skip. All my friends, all my neighbors are driving by, they're laughing. Big old skip in the field. So I went up to look at it, and this is what I found. So everything with the Holganix on was up. You could row it. The stuff where we shut it off to do our test, and I'm only on year one. It's the first time I used the product. We literally had 48 rows that you couldn't see until about 2 days later you could row it. So
oh, that's cool.
It was really neat. So that's when I started digging these up, and on this one, they were all pretty easy on the 800, the Bio 800. I mean, all the plants were just up, beautiful, even, all the way down. When I picked up the control, I picked the one that was out of the ground the most, is the plant I picked. So there was no cheating here at all involved. It's a real deal. So
that's cool. Love that. Love that picture. I remember getting it in the
spring.
spring.
A skip, and then all my neighbors got to eat dirt when I said no. It's just because that was our test. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So what? Take us to the next slide then, Ritu. So again, if you look at, there's a lot of microbial technologies out there. I'm sure everybody on this call has used or at least been presented with a microbial technology that claims to help do something on the farm, help your operation one way or the other. So what makes Holganix different than any other microbial? It comes down to our system approach. It comes down to that biodiversity, using those over 800 species of bacteria, fungi, amoeba, and protozoa that are all working together. If you look at any other microbial, I would simply ask you to just ask the rep or just look at the label and say, how many species of microbes do you have? And typically what you're going to see, I mean, when I say typically, I mean all the time, they're going to give you an answer of, well, it's got 2 species of bacteria. Maybe it's a really robust one and it's got 15 species of bacteria. They may even say they have some fungi, and then I would press you to ask them what type of fungi. They will always say it's basically a yeast. The reason they're using the same limited species of bacteria, and the only fungi they ever seem to claim is yeast, is because those things are very easy to stabilize. So virtually every other microbial technology out there is really sourcing from the same limited families of spore-forming bacillus, spore-forming bacteria. And they do that because they're easy to stabilize. And they may do something good for you on the farm, but what they do is going to be very limited, simply because it's only a handful of species. And they're all going to do similar things, if they're effective at all. Bio 800, we're using over 800 species of bacteria, fungi, amoeba, and protozoa. We're not and when we talk about fungi, they're talking about yeast, we're talking about over 200 species of fungi that are going to go out and really drive soil health, plant health, help with this rooting and this uptake, help with phosphorus solubilizing, making potassium more available, nitrogen more available. So we're just doing things that these other microbials can't do because we're taking a totally different approach, and it comes down to biodiversity. And so we believe that helps us, really makes us stand apart from any other technology. We're really doing something different. And so Bio 800 really does stand apart. We're better than anybody else on the planet at stacking, stabilizing, and concentrating this large consortium of microbes. What that means to you is, again, it's improved soil long term, which helps obviously soil health as farmer wealth, but it also reduces your fertilizer inputs right up front. Typically, we see reductions 10 to 30% in guys are be able to pull back on NP and K. Every operation is different, so we're not going to tell you with a blanket statement, say, hey, just eliminate 30% of your NP and K. That's not appropriate. We want to look at your removal rates. We want to look at what your current program is, and we want to kind of dial that in. But rest assured, we can pull off enough inputs in almost every situation that more than pays for the product right up front. And then giving you better yield over the course of the year. And, in beans, we're seeing 3 to 7 bushel per acre, pretty common, sometimes better than that, but that's pretty common. And in corn, we're seeing, 5 to 9 bushel improvement. Again, sometimes much better than that, but that's a pretty common result. And so that's going to put money back into your pocket. So pay for yourself with the nutrient efficiency, put money in your pocket with the yield, and know that you're investing in your soil health long term. And then if you look at our breakdown product, it's going to help break down that residue and make it easier to plant in the fall, and again, add nutrients back into the soil. Again, here we see side-by-side pictures of standard fertilizer practice and then adding the Bio 800. Brian, is that one of yours as well?
Yeah, that's one of mine.
You want to tell us what's going on there?
Yeah, I'm going to have Terry talk about this when he's our sales manager.
Okay.
So this is one of his finds.
This is a customer of ours, year one again, just kind of got to him late. He had all of his fertilizer and everything laid down already, so he didn't really change much in his program, just added the Bio 800. And just better rooting, deeper rooting, much greener, thicker plant, just all year long saw really good, healthy plants. At the end of the day, he did see some yield increase, different variations in different fields, but really, really impressed here on this farm. He had another farm that he had cattle manure on that really, really stood out. That one did really good up behind that red barn that we were at. And,
Yep.
Just really impressed with it. Again, just a healthier plant in general.
Cool.
And I will point out, every time we go pull plants, or, the farmer is with us. Or like, you tell us what plant to pull, just so they can see it, they can pick the plant. And
Just so you can see the way the roots are hanging onto the dirt too. And I didn't really understand that when we were first pulling these roots, but Dave kind of explained some of that, Barrett, and you did too, about why that is. So that was kind of cool, that just to know why the roots have that sheath on them that's hanging onto the dirt a little better.
Yeah, and for those of you that are attendees on the call here, you can see those two root balls, and the one you basically just see some roots that are just kind of sitting there naked, and then on the one that has the Bio 800, you can see the soil sticking to the roots. We got a real root, really a soil ball there. There's two reasons that's happening. One is we have a more fibrous root system, so more of those kind of hair-like roots that are coming out that are tying everything together, making it easier to hold that soil together. But also, when roots are in presence of healthy microbiome, healthy microbes, which we're going to add with the Bio 800, they produce almost like a glue that actually helps to create a biosheath around the soil, around the root, that then makes the soil stick to the root more efficiently, which is going to give that plant a better ability to access what's in that soil. And a physical sign of that is what you see in the back of this pickup here. So good point. Thanks, Terry. So let's go to the next slide, Ritu. So how do you use Bio 800? to do that. You can use fungicides on your field, just don't tank mix. You can use them on your seed treat, just don't tank mix. But we do mix with all your starters and all your herbicides, and it's very compatible with everything you're going to use. The Bioweed Hunter breakdown, same story, but we want to apply it as close to harvest as possible. So just after harvest, get it down. We want to get it down while soil temps are still up. We really want soil temperatures to be above 45 degrees for at least 3 or 4 weeks, if possible. That's going to give us that ability to break that cellulose down. After the soil temperatures get below 45, the microbes get very slow, and the results will be less, and it'll take longer, and we'll have less of a breakdown effect. So the closer you can get to that planting or that harvest, the better. But that's how you use it. It's real easy to use. Taylor, you've used it for 5 years now. You want to just talk a little bit about, what it's like to use the product out in the field, and what you see just from a pure production perspective, and getting it out on your ground.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it with 1034-0 and 624-6, put it in furrow, and I mean, I haven't had many issues. All you do is check your filters every, couple shuttles, but it showed me, I mean, I used to not check my filters as much and probably was plugged up more, but got my attention to do it more often, and I've had a real good experience with that. Haven't had any issues, and I sprayed it on top. You're relying on Mother Nature more, but it does work that. Like I said, I had that side-by-side where I went every 120 feet, and I had real good results with the roots. That year with the yield, I got that snow on the beans, and a lot of the beans dropped off. So I mean, it showed probably only a bushel and a half yield better, but the bigger bush your plant is, probably the snow took it down when it snowed on them.
Yeah. Let's get a little deeper into that, because it's such a cool story. So you got busy, you didn't get everything out of the ground, and you got caught with a snow you weren't expecting. How much snow did you get?
That one was 8 inches.
8 inches of snow. You hadn't harvested your beans. Now you got to go back in the field. It was beans, right?
Yep. Soybeans, yes.
Yeah. So you had to go back into the field with a bunch of snow. Typically, you would see very, very little harvest out of that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, when we waited a little bit, the snow shrunk down. I suppose probably still had 4 inches. When we harvested them, and you had to cut a little higher, so you left, your bottom couple sets too.
Yeah. And you still saw 35 bushel or something with the Holganix treated, even in that situation.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a neat story. So this picture here, is that one of yours as well, Brian?
Yes, that's one of ours.
Yeah, tell us what's going on here.
That was actually my neighbor. Sold him some product to put on his beans and corn. Had a little leftover from spraying his beans that he did. So he had a new oats and alfalfa mix that he put down by the creek bottom down there where they did some construction and tree clearing and so forth. So he went over there and just basically blew what was left off on the sprayer. And I was driving by with the side-by-side one day, and I thought, well, we'll just stop and pull some plants and kind of take a look at that. He was going to cut it and bale it in a couple of days. And that's just what we saw, the treated and the untreated. Just bigger roots, thicker plants, greener plants, taller plants, just overall healthier. He kind of told me from the road he didn't really see any difference, but he said, you can go down there and take a look if you want to. And we actually went back there and pulled them again, because I went by myself the first time. These are the plants that he pulled. And so obviously he said, there is a difference. So if you're cutting and baling that or harvesting that, I don't know about you, but I know which one I'd want to have. So
yeah, right. Yeah, we typically see, much better yield, also better kind of digestibility, potentially better nutrient content. So definitely going to make a big difference here. Pretty much anything that grows in the ground, we're going to help it grow better with Holganix technology.
And just pulling them out of the ground, he said, I can tell just grabbing the plant and pulling them out of the ground, the ones in the Holganix with bigger roots pulled easier than the other ones. They just came up, together. We didn't shake them off or do anything. We just pulled them out of the ground. and the other ones, you felt like just the ground was tighter. It was, tearing roots and so forth, and the soil was just a lot different.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. In every picture, you're going to see better root mass. We typically see, 3 to 6 times more root mass, weighable root mass, if you wanted to get into the technical of it. What does that mean? Well, it means it's a healthier plant. It means it's going to withstand stress like what Taylor had to deal with the beans, or drought, or too much water, not enough water, heat, wind, hail. All those things are going to benefit by roots. But also, those roots are going to drive into the soil. You're going to harvest the plant. The roots are going to stay there. They're going to then degrade and turn into humus, which is going to help build organic matter in the soil and help change that soil profile. Beyond the microbes, the roots are going to help. We're also creating more shafts of ability for water and nutrients to penetrate. We break up compaction with roots. So roots are, obviously everybody on this call knows roots are our friends, but I think, don't minimize the fact that we're creating these big healthy roots. This is part of the soil health journey, is adding those roots back to the soil and their ability to help change that soil over time. So let's move on to the next picture here. So I've kind of gone off script here. We were supposed to do an overview and then interview the guys, but I've just been interviewing the guys as we're going because we got their pictures here. So this is where I'm supposed to now move into questions. What kind of things have you seen with Bio 800? Any of you guys is this one of your pictures on the call here? Anybody?
Yeah, that's my picture.
They're all Brian's. So tell us about it, Brian. What do you see here?
We did a lot of meeting up with the farmers, making sure that they understood, just on year one, without any cutback, what we were seeing out there. The farmer here, I think this field ended up 17, 18 bushel better side by side. You can obviously see the difference here, but very happy farmer that did 500 acres last year, absolutely all in this year. So yeah, this is him picking all these years. And then we just picked 7 or 8 years in a row where we're at, then just go over where we didn't treat, and this is what we found.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Tim,
Yeah.
what kind of things? I'm sorry, Brian.
This was a lighter soil farmer, so this is probably like that 55 to 60 CSR dirt, so lighter soil. Said he's never raised corn like this with the 800. So
that's cool. Do you see a difference?
He also put all of his ground. He's all no-till, so he covered all 1,000 acres or 1,200 acres that he farms with the fall product. Coming back with the spring product, he's super excited.
Yeah, that's great. So Tim, tell us some of the things that you're seeing out in the field as you've used the product. Now you're using on organic and conventional. Is that right, Tim?
Right. Yep. Mostly conventional, but I got a partial pivot that's organic as well. That's where it got me interested. Was I actually had a yield on something where a lot of it's been fighting weeds and compaction and all this stuff that it. When I put the Holganix down, left some strips back and forth, it's like there was a wave in the field. You could see exactly where it was and where it wasn't. I mean, there was 18 inches difference in corn height 2 years ago. Yield, it's with organic, I'm talking maybe 2 bushels better, but when the field average is 50, it's amazing. So that was certainly like, okay, there's something different. So I put that on my conventional, and like this picture here, I put it on my sandiest field. It was pasture. I mean, it never should have been broken out from sand. And the 1/2 of it yielded 50 bushels better than it's ever done before this first year with Holganix. I just tried it to say, I'm not changing anything. Let's see if this is another one of those snake oils. I'd seen it on the organic. Okay, it looks like it's doing better. What does it do on my conventional? And I'm not kidding. I was shocked. Honestly, 50 bushels better. Obviously, I know we can't advertise it that way, but I was really excited at that point to say, all right, let's try it on everything else, and let's just leave a strip out of my field because I want my stinking yield to go up. This year, I cut back my nitrogen 25%. I normally put about 200 pounds of N. I put 150 down this year. Still the same yields or better. I think 2015, I was just looking at my records. 2015, I had 2 fields that yielded better than this year. But in 2015, we also had about 3 times the amount of rain that we had this year. Even with irrigation, that still makes a heck of a difference, because I can tell you my irrigation bill was probably 3 times what it was in 2015 also. But yeah, this year probably 2, 3, 5 bushels better on overall field by field. But yeah, when I saw that on the stand, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of stand out here. I can talk to a few guys about this, because you'll be amazed. And I certainly was.
Yeah, and that's cool. And we like to use it. If you're going to just try it out, we want you to use it on your worst ground first. Not a lot of people say that. They all want to get on your cherry ground, but we see great improvements on great ground. And Brian can tell you all about that, where he's at in Iowa. They're growing 300 bushel corn, and he's seeing a benefit. But we also, if you put us on your worst ground, whether it's heavy or light, but the least productive ground, that's where we're going to see the biggest percentage gains. And because a lot of times those soils are lacking so much. You getting ready to say something, Brian?
Yeah, one of the biggest thing I seen was on my beans. There was a 9 in front of it on the monitor, and I have absolutely never been in 90 bushel beans. So I think 93, 94, I videoed it all the way across the field. We're talking about a 150 acre field. I sat there and videoed it the whole way across the field, and it went from 88 to 93.
That's awesome.
It was unbelievable.
And what's typical ground doing out? I mean, you got great ground, period, but what's typical ground doing out there?
Well, like I said, I've been farming for 20 years now, and 65 bushel beans and 185 bushel corn, I mean, over the average forever. So my dad was talking about 60 bushel beans, 30 years ago. And one reason why I, looked into the Holganix is, we didn't make anywhere in the last 30 years. We're still at 60 bushel beans. So there's got to be something out there. There's got to be a reason, because we're putting more at it and getting the same. So, to see a 9 in front of it, unbelievable. And we went 6 weeks without water. So August 4th, we got a rain, and I think that fuel is about 11 bushel better on the beans. 11 bushel times 15, I think you can afford to put $20 down.
Yeah, right. Put some money in your pocket, for sure. Taylor, we had Tim talk about some of his nutrient reductions. How have you seen efficiency with nutrients with how you've been using the product?
Yeah, I mean, like edible beans, we're virtually just putting a little bit of nitrogen down, and we're pulling off some 3,000, 2,500, up to 3,800, pound beans. And I don't know if you have that on the slide, but that time I showed you that navy plant, we're looking for white mold, and it was over 6 feet tall. The plant I pulled up, it was huge.
Yeah, I don't think we used that picture. We should have, but yeah, that was super neat.
Never seen it in my life, and I don't think anyone has that, but it was just happened. I found it when I was looking for white mold.
And that's a great point there, Taylor. So have you seen Holganix Barrett 100 help slow down white mold on your operation?
Yeah, I mean, I spray probably, am I irrigated twice, but I haven't had really. I mean, I pulled off, like I said, 3,800 pound edibles. And I mean, it's always good to have a little white mold, because that means you get a big crop. But, when it starts eating the pods is when you have the issue. But
yeah.
But anyways, no, I mean, I'm in 30-inch rows, and I mean, it's been doing really good.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's a good point. So we're not an EPA controlled, pesticide. So we're not sitting here telling you that we stop fungus and disease problems. But here's what I will tell you is we help create suppressive soils. And what's a suppressive soil? It's when the good guys outnumber the bad guys, so that the beneficial microbes take up the space that the pathogens, could potentially spread in. Then we see less damage from any of our pathogens. We seem to see white mold specifically. You can see a tremendous reduction in that, but other fungus and disease problems as well. We even see less insect damage. Again, we're not stopping insects, we're not killing insects, but what we do is create a healthier plant that the insects don't do as much damage to, and frankly seem to move away from for a variety of reasons that scientifically I could get into, but we'll just keep things simple. We'll just keep moving. Let's go to the next slide here, Ritu. So we talk about the Bio 800 breakdown product, which is, again, where we take the species and we elevate the populations to be more dominant around breaking down plant cellulose, corn stover, and the likes. And there's other microbial breakdown products out there, but ours is different because we really focus on the fungi to do the heavy lifting. And frankly, bacteria cannot break down plant cellulose material really at all. They can help add to some things that break it down, but they don't directly break it down. But the fungi, if you get the right fungi in there in the right populations, they will absolutely consume your leftover stover and any kind of cellulose material. So Brian or Terry, tell us, you guys used the breakdown quite a bit this year. Tell us what we're looking at here.
This is one of my cornfields. We came in right behind the combine, and then we let it just set. We had some good weather, so it was warm. We did catch a rain in between there, and then after that we went out and I vertical tilled everything, and then I think it was about a week to 10 days later we went out and started looking at what was all growing. We did have an agronomist with us. I believe she's a big agronomist out of Iowa State. Right. And she was just amazed with everything that was growing here. And she's like opening up stocks saying, oh my gosh, you could not have this pink color in here and this color in here. You know, she was crazy excited. She looked at us and she said, this is the best product I've ever seen in 20 years. She goes, there's a lot of breakdown products out there. She goes, I've never seen anything like this. So that was pretty cool to see. So vertical tilled everything. That's it. We're planting right into that. It literally is ready for planting.
And what you see here, all this little white fuzz that looks like it's growing on the plants, that's the mycelium, the beneficial fungi that are in there, going to work to start to degrade this. And this was how long after planting did you take this picture? I say planting, harvest, spraying.
This is probably about 3 weeks after we sprayed it.
Okay.
Like literally the stalks just were falling apart because everything on the inside was just, mostly broke down after 3 weeks.
Yeah. And think about it, for those of you that are just kind of learning, how much nutrient is tied up in your average corn stover that's now going to go back into the soil. Think about how much more efficiently it's going to be for you guys to plant next spring, and how much better the soil is going to be because we don't have to do a deep till because it's going to break down naturally.
Yeah, and just think about, I did all my bean stubble too. Just think about how much that the bugs are going to lock up the nitrogen that was left over. The nitrogen left over and the nitrogen that you're getting from your beans. The bugs get in there, they lock that up, and then they're not going anywhere. So that's going to be right there for the plant the following year.
Yeah, that's a great point, Brian. So by having the right consortium of microbes there, those microbes are actually going to, certain ones of the species are going to actually eat and consume your nitrogen, which sounds like maybe I don't want it to eat and consume the nitrogen, but actually you do, because then we don't lose it to volatilization, we don't lose it to runoff, it stays where we want it. And then as the soil becomes active in the spring, the fungi start to, and the protozoa, amoebas, they all start to become active. They actually consume the bacteria that have consumed that nitrogen. They then digest it and convert it into a form that's available to the plant right at the root zone. So it's a really efficient way to help make sure we hold on to that nitrogen, from harvest to germination. So let's go to the next slide then, Ritu. So I think we've talked about this largely, but one thing we haven't talked about is, again, we're using an active, large consortium of microbes. And remember, the other microbial technologies out there are going to use just a handful of spore-forming bacillus because they're easy to stabilize, they're easy to store. Our product is frankly, when you have a large consortium of microbes, it's a lot harder to figure out how to stabilize it. We have a patent on how we stack, stabilize, and concentrate this large consortium, and it's what really sets us apart. But one of the things we use is cold chain supply. So when we have our consortium below 44 degrees, they're dormant. We've got better than 2-year shelf life below 44 degrees. As it gets above 44 degrees, the temperature of the vessel, you know, where we're storing the material, the microbes start to become active. The warmer it gets, the more active they get. As they become active, they consume oxygen inside that vessel, whether that be a tote or a drum or what have you. As they consume the oxygen, eventually they run out of oxygen, and then our aerobic mixture of microbes becomes anaerobic, which is not as good for promoting soil health. It's not going to hurt anything, but it's not going to give us all these wonderful benefits. So we like to keep the product cold for long-term storage, but you don't have to have cold supply, cold storage as a grower, as a producer, because we're going to ship it to you from one of our dealers, whether it be Brian or Tim or Taylor or one of our other dealers around the country. And you've got 4 to 6 weeks at room temperature to use that product very effectively. And so it's not like it's ice cream. We have, as soon as you take it out of the refrigerator, it melts. We've got, you know, better than a month. You know when you're going to plant, you order the material, it gets to you a week or two before you're going to plant, and then we go ahead and we deliver to you and you put it down. So Taylor, you've been using this now for multiple of years and getting it to lots of people. You want to talk at all about whether that refrigeration is a hassle or a benefit, or like where you see it, you know, in the operation?
Yeah, I've had a lot of guys nervous about it, I guess, with regards to, oh, we got to keep it cold, and I guess I've been saying 2 weeks. You know, try to keep it refrigerated at least 2 weeks before you put it out on your field. But I had one, you know, we do some edible beans, so I usually get my shipment early April, and I got to make it into early June. Haven't had anything going anaerobic on me anyway, so it's been haven't really had to worry that much on the refrigeration. I have a unit that I put it in to keep it cold for myself to hand out to customers, but I think keep it out of direct sunlight is the main thing. That makes them more active, but really it's been pretty easy. It's a nice, easy product to get along with. You know, you mess with organic, you mess with fish, that plugs every single lasting screen you can find. You mess with this and that. And this stuff is really easy to put on. It's really easy to run through screens. I haven't had a plug on anything. So as far as storing and use, it's pretty dang easy. A half gallon an acre is really tough to argue with, and haven't had a lot of problem with refrigeration or anything like that, getting them too hot and turning anaerobic on me or anything like that.
Yeah. And Taylor, how about you? You've used it now for 5 years, going through, you know, trailer load after trailer load of the material. You know, any feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're up north, so I mean, it's cool already when we're planting corn. I mean, you don't have to worry ever about that, and mainly you have to worry about sometimes about freezing. Tell them to keep it in their sheds overnight. Sometimes, you know, when it gets too cold. But no, I've put it out in the sun for in a gallon jug, and just left a 2.5 gallon jug out in the sun. I think it took eight weeks to start really, you know, showing signs and smelling like.
Yeah, I don't know if we bleached it. Smelling like, and then you didn't hear him because he could have used a bad word about what it smells like when it goes anaerobic, which smells like the worst swamp water you ever smelled.
It'll tip you over if you take a whiff of that.
But so that's actually a good thing, gang, because a lot of people are like, well, hey, it's been out of the refrigerator for 6 weeks. Is it still good? There's a really simple way to tell. You just smell it. It either smells like cross between Sam Adams glazed donuts and maybe a little bit of vinegar, or it smells like something you can't even get near, or your dog wouldn't go near. Because when it goes anaerobic, it's a light switch. It turns off, and when that happens, the odor changes, and you know you've got anaerobic material. If that happens, by the way, we will warranty that. So you call your dealer, you call Holganix, you say, hey, I left it in the shed for 2 months. I just didn't get to it like I thought I was going to. Whatever. I don't care if it was just out of absent-mindedness. We will actually replace that material for you at no cost. Now, if you do that every year, we may have a conversation. But I can tell you that I make that claim to people every year, and every year we might replace a single tote out of thousands of totes that we ship out. So it's really not an issue, and it's one that we don't want you to think about or have a risk in. It's nothing we need to worry about. We do have a few questions here. Ritu, why don't you go to the next slide? I don't know that we can talk about these things, but let's go to a couple questions, because if people have to jump off, I want to make sure we get to at least some of the questions. So Reggie asked the picture, the first picture that we showed, which was your well, yeah, we can go there. How was it applied in this picture, Brian?
That was applied in furrow.
In furrow, okay. With what did you use fertilizer wise?
3-18-18 starter fertilizer.
Okay, cool. And so that was Reggie asked that question. Hopefully that got you the answer you needed there, Reggie. And we had a couple other questions. Let me see if I can pull them up. So, can you make preseason and mid-season split applications? Has anybody on? I have an answer to this, but I want to see if any of the guys on the call, have you guys used it multiple applications? Do you do it in split applications or anything like that?
I did. I tried a little bit with my cultivator. I did, I think, a quarter gallon was what I had just to put on my organic a second time, and also on a conventional. It's kind of a split field, and I put it on. Did I notice a difference between where I put it, the second application versus just one? Not enough to say, yeah, let's throw another $20 an acre at it. I just had a little bit left over at the end that I was like, well, let's finish it up and get it out of the shed. But really, I mean, I can't say, yeah, it was worth an extra $20 an acre. It was, I put it out there, and if I could see a difference, great. If not, no big deal. But it wasn't statistically efficient enough to say, yep, that's worth putting the second one out there.
Gotcha. Taylor, have you used it split on anything? Are you there, Taylor? Have you guys used a split, Brian? While we're waiting for Taylor to come back.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hey, Taylor.
So this year we traded some ground with my brother-in-laws, and anyways, we had some Lotus carryover. They went a little heavy on the Lotus and on their corn, and anyways, I put it in furrow, and then I decided to go back just because of the crop was so thick. And I went back and I put my corn killer with the Holganix, and man, we had irrigation beans. They looked like they were going to run about 6 bag average, and we ended up pulling about 25 bags off them.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, and we watered it as much as we could.
Right.
Just because we're trying to wash that chemical down a little further.
Yeah.
And basically the label on Lotus, it needed like 21 inches of rain. And anyways, last year, the prior year, we were in a drought, and we didn't really get that rain, and probably only got, with the pivots even there, probably only got 11 inches or so, 12.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good experience there. Brian, Terry, have you guys used it on split apps anywhere?
Yeah. We didn't have anybody that uses it on split apps.
Okay. Yeah. And typically we tell you use it in the spring at a half gallon an acre, use it in the fall, post-harvest, half gallon an acre. We don't tell you to use it split apps during the growing season. It actually, we have had plenty of trial work that says that does make a difference. It certainly will make a difference in soil health, and sometimes it makes a difference in yield improvement that pays for the extra application. Sometimes it doesn't. So we want to make sure you always put money back in your pocket, so we don't make that as a blanket recommendation. But you can play with it on your operation and do your own trials and see what makes sense. We do have a customer that's in Kansas, been using it for 5-6 years now, and he does like to go down split. He does a reduced rate at split, so he does like a quarter gallon twice, and he believes that's better for him. Now, we've not done a lot of trial work that says that, but again, you use it how you see fit. We have a whole business dedicated to the golf course operations, and it's a slightly different formulation. It's still part of the Bio 800 family, but we formulate it for turf grass. They're using it monthly. But that's a totally different operation for totally different purposes. We also have people use it for produce, berries, and again, they're going to use it maybe 3 to 4 times during the growing season. So there is situations where multiple applications make sense. Today we're talking about corn and soy for the most part, maybe wheat. For the most part, that's going to be a single application at planting and then one post-harvest. But there's some times where that's not true, and you can look at that yourself. Here's an interesting question: any value in adding humic acid or ammonium sulfate to the Bio 800? Have you guys played around with anybody on the phone? Played around with humics, using humics with Holganix and seen any measurable? I mean, I've got my own experience, but if you guys have anything to share, sounds like maybe not.
Not that much. I mean, I've done a little bit with the organic side, more of a compost with the humics on it, but really the Holganix is where you draw the line. I don't see a huge jump on adding a humic on top of it or anything like that. I usually put some sugar out when I'm putting some nitrogen through the pivot, just a couple pounds to add a little bit more carbon to my sandy field especially, but nothing really significant to say shoot for the humics. This already has some humic and fulvics in it, so sometimes those things get kind of pricey. I'd rather see more bang for my buck, which that's what this is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that, Tim. We do, and thanks for pointing out too, Tim. We keep talking about the microbial population, which is really the main technology behind Holganix. But if you look at what's in the jug, it has all these microbes we're talking about, but it also has a pound of sugar per gallon of material. We're using blackstrap molasses. We're also has humic, amino, fulvic acids. They're all in there because they're good food sources for the microbes. They help uptake of nutrient a little bit, but really they're there for food sources, as well as yucca extract and kelp extract. So we've got more in there that are other additives that are going to help improve uptake and biostimulants, but also there for microbial food. If you wanted to add your own humic acid, for sure it's an additive. Microbes love humic acids and they will thrive in the presence of humic acid. We have it in the product. If you're putting it down anyway, you've got to benefit. You got to kind of weigh out the benefits and the cost, but generally humics will help improve microbial activity, and so they will help this product.
Add an extra, but every now and then, like I'll still sometimes on my soybeans put like Nutricycle down. That's endo-echo mycorrhiza. But
Okay, good. Well, thanks, Taylor. Did everybody? I froze for a bit. My internet went on the fritz, but you guys all heard Taylor's response. Good. And so we had another question here around. Is there a difference in how above ground residue carbon oxidizes and is released into the atmosphere versus moving into the soil as OM, and if Holganix influences that? So I can certainly speak to that. Do any of you guys on the call have any experience in looking at anything that around what this particular grower is talking about? So have you guys studied? Well, Tim or Taylor, you've been using it a while. Have you seen organic matter increase as you've been using, or CEC increase?
I've got my soil tests back, and my CEC's gone up from, maybe not a whole bunch, but it's gone from 17 to 19.2, 19.1. Slowly coming up, but it's certainly, like I said, we had a drought this year, so to get any increase is pretty amazing. But yeah, I've from 17 to 19.1, 19.2 anyway for me.
Yeah, that's cool. So that cation exchange is going to basically help make sure that the nutrients we put down get used by the plant, and that's a sign that we're driving healthier soil. So thanks for that, Tim. Taylor, have you looked at that at all on your ground around organic matter or carbon CEC?
Yeah, I've seen it go up a little bit, but I mean, it takes a lot to change your organic matter, but I mean, I had a field that basically now I'm at a 5, and I mean, I think 4 years ago it was about a 4.6.
Right. Cool. So we're seeing that move in the right direction, and definitely, if we can capture carbon and get it into the soil, we're going to improve everything that's happening in that soil. And if we don't, the opposite of that is that it oxidizes and gets released in the atmosphere, and that's not doing your plant any good, and it's not doing the atmosphere any good either. So, the microbes in conjunction with roots are a really good carbon sink, and will help sequester that carbon and make it available to plant over time. And we should see differences in soil tests that show that over time. So good question from the person who asked that. You want to go to the next slide here, Ritu, as we kind of wrap up? We're at the top of the hour. Thanks, everybody, by the way, for sticking around. We went a little bit long, but we had some really good conversations and questions, and we didn't lose a single person. So I appreciate you sticking around for that. And we can stick around and ask these guys more questions if you have them, but be respectful of everybody's time. I want to make sure you understand that we've got several webinars that are happening that we can learn more about Holganix and how it can help improve soil health and nutrient efficiency and yield. And we're going to send you an email after this that tells you how to join any one of these webinars. Well, we've got one, and they're all going to be run by our head of science, which is Dr. David Stark. He's a PhD molecular biologist, spent 27 years at Monsanto, and has been really spearheading our microbial entrance into agriculture. And he does a great presentation on the science around all of this. But he'll be digging into soil health and the role of soil microbes and at a much higher kind of scientific level than what we've covered today. And that's in partnership with Progressive Farmer. We'll send you the link for that. Reducing fertilizer costs starts with your soil, and that's going to be in partnership with the No-Till Farmer Group. And again, Dave will be hosting that. And fertilizer prices high. How do microbes improve fertilizer efficiency in the farm? In partnership with Acres USA. And again, Dave will be running that. So if those topics are of interest to you, please join those webinars. They're not sales pitches. They're educational webinars that are designed to educate you, whether you decide to use Holganix or some other microbial or some other soil health initiative. You'll walk away knowing more about what's going on in the soil by attending those webinars. So we'll send you that. If there's anything we can do to answer more questions, connect you with one of our dealers, get you some products, show you how this can help improve your operation. We're very eager to talk to you. So we'll have our contact information in our follow-up email, and we'll go ahead and provide the email addresses for the gentlemen on the call today. So if you want to interact with them on a one-on-one basis, feel free. While they all will represent Holganix in their communities, they're active. They're all active growers, active farmers, and there's no way they'd be representing us if they didn't see the benefit to their own farms, and how they use it. So they're a really good set of guys to share some experiences with and understand how to use the product a little better. So with that, is anybody on the call? Is this one of your corn stalks where you can see it kind of in one picture? It's kind of all hollow. The other one, it's all nice and white.
I believe that's out of Indiana.
Okay, so nobody on the call here. So bottom line is just take a look at those two stalks. It tells you a pretty clear story. We're probably accessing more potassium that's making that stalk much healthier. But you can see that where the Bio 800 was used, we see a white, healthy stalk that's going to be more intact, going to stand up better to any kind of stress. The other one that's been pure fertilizer, you can see a lot of void in that stalk, and it's drier. It's not as healthy. And potassium deficiency is going to give us that, but just generally we're going to create a healthier plant that's going to get show all kinds of signs of better health, whether that be brace roots, root systems, stalks, pod set, you name it. So with that, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to share experiences with our group here, and everybody on the call. Thank you for taking time out of your day to learn about Holganix. Hopefully we can find a way to get on your operation and help you improve your soil health and your profit per acre. You guys have any closing thoughts you'd like to wrap it up with, Tim, Brian, or Taylor? All right, with that, we'll close it out and just say thank you. Have a great day. Hopefully the weather treats you well and you've got a great season ahead. So thanks for taking the time again.